Unless the government took immediate and drastic action, everything the free-thinking Dutch held dear would soon be swept away. The Dutch literary press had been predictably appalled. Hysteria, said one reviewer. Racist claptrap, said another. More than one took pains to note that the views expressed in the book were all the more odious, given the fact that Rosner's grandparents had been rounded up with 100,000 other Dutch Jews and sent off to the gas chambers at Auschwitz. All agreed that what the situation required was not hateful rhetoric like Rosner's, but tolerance and dialogue. Rosner stood steadfast in the face of the withering criticism, adopting what one commentator described as the posture of a man with his finger wedged firmly in the dike. Tolerance and dialogue by all means, Rosner responded, but not capitulation. We Dutch need to put down our Heinekens and hash pipes and wake up, he snapped during an interview on Dutch television. Otherwise, we are going to lose our country. The book and surrounding controversy had made Rosner the most vilified and, in some quarters, celebrated man in the country. It had also placed him squarely in the sights of Holland's homegrown Islamic extremists. Jihadist websites, which Rosner monitored more closely than even the Dutch police, burned with sacred rage over the book, and more than one forecast his imminent execution. An imam in the neighborhood known as the Oud West instructed his flock that Rosner the Jew must be dealt with harshly, and pleaded for a martyr to step forward and do the job. The feckless Dutch interior minister responded by proposing that Rosner go into hiding, an idea Rosner vigorously refused. He then supplied the minister with a list of 10 radicals he regarded as potential assassins. The minister accepted the list without question, for he knew that Rosner's sources inside Holland's extremist fringe were in most cases far better than those of the Dutch security services. At noon on that Friday in December, Rosner was hunched over his computer in the second-floor office of his canal house at Groenbergwal 2A. The house, like Rosner himself, was stubby and wide and tilted forward at a precarious angle, which some of the neighborhood saw as fitting given the political views of its occupant. If it had one serious drawback, it was its location, for it stood not 50 yards from the bell tower of the Zuiderkerk church. The bells tolled mercilessly each day, beginning at the stroke of noon and ending 45 minutes later. Rosner, sensitive to interruptions and unwanted noise, had been waging a personal jihad against them for years. Classical music, white noise machines, soundproof headphones, all had proven useless in the face of the onslaught. Sometimes he wondered why they were rung at all. The old church had long ago been turned into a government housing office, a fact that Rosner, a man of considerable faith, saw as a fitting symbol of the Dutch morass. Confronted by an enemy of infinite religious zeal, the secular Dutch had turned their churches into bureaus of the welfare state. A church without faithful, thought Rosner, in a city without God. At 10 minutes past 12 he heard a faint knock, and looked up to find Sophie Vanderhouse leaning against the door jamb with a batch of files clutched to her breast. A former student of Rosner's, she had come to work for him after completing a graduate degree on the impact of the Holocaust on post-war Dutch society. She was part secretary and research assistant, part nursemaid and surrogate daughter. She kept his office in order and typed the final drafts of all his reports and articles. She was the minder of his impossible schedule and tended to his appalling personal finances. She even saw to his laundry and made certain he remembered to eat. Earlier that morning she had informed him she was planning to spend a week in St. Martin over the new year. Rosner, upon hearing the news, had fallen into a profound depression.
"You have an interview with the Telegraph in an hour," she said. "Maybe you should have something to eat and focus your thoughts."
"Are you suggesting my thoughts lack focus, Sophie?"
"I'm suggesting nothing of the sort. It's just that you've been working on that article since 5:30 this morning. You need something more than coffee in your stomach."
"It's not that dreadful reporter who called me a Nazi last year?"
"Do you really think I'd let her near you again?"
She entered the office and started straightening his desk.
"After the interview with the Telegraph, you go to the Inner West Studios for an appearance on Radio 1. It's a call-in program, so it's sure to be lively. Do try not to make any more enemies, Professor Rosner. It's getting harder and harder to keep track of them all."
"I'll try to behave myself."